Carte Los Angeles. Today we're going to talk about wine with Jordane Andrieu. He's an oenologue. So Jordane, thank you very much for having us in this beautiful place. It's your shop, I understand. So who are you? Explain your French, how you grew up and where you grew up and how you became an oenologue. And after that, we're going to explain what an oenologue is.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me. And here it's the place I created a year and a half ago. It's in the heart of the Golden Triangle of Beverly Hills. It's called Heritage Fine Wines. It's a combination of a wine shop, a wine bar, mainly organic wine or biodynamic wines, and as well a place where you can do events. So we do a lot of events because the location is amazing, and we have a rooftop as well. We do private parties. Yeah. And but before moving to Los Angeles 3 years ago, I was taking care of my father's vineyard. That's where it comes from. My background, my winery background, oenologue background. We have a vineyard in Burgundy, next to Meursault. It's a little small town called Océ-du-Rez. Next to Meursault. Meursault is probably the best village to produce the best Chardonnay wines in the world. And I moved here afterwards. So I did my enology diploma in Dijon, in the institute called Jules Guyot de la Vigne et du Vin. And that's where I learned how to make wine, the science of making wine. And then after I moved here to realize another dream that I had, which is moving to California and extend my wine businesses under the sun of California.
Oh, good.
And here we go.
So now explain what's an oenologue.
So, well, there's different types of oenologue, if I can say so like that. There is like the oenologue, there is like kind of a scientific. So it's the science of making wine, understanding what's the process of transforming a grapefruit juice into an alcoholic beverage based with the grape juices. So there is some that takes this job as a really scientific, analyzing every state of the art of making wine, and then after make it as a scientific product where they can correct the default of the wine by different oenologic products. That would be like maybe the magician oenologue. Many wineries, unfortunately, are using those type of correction oenologue practices to make a standard wine or to make a wine that, for me, doesn't have any more soul.
And there is a regular wine every year, every time.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
Exactly. Yes. So and as well to reach like what they want to say the perfect wine. By really collecting a lot of things or adding things, taking away things, like for example adding sugar, adding acid, or using some type of product that's going to clear the wine or that's going to reduce or round the tannin. It's just like a makeup. You just change the look, the taste of the wine by artificial effects, by makeup.
So it's more the scientist way, right?
So there is this part, and there is the other part. I'm from Burgundy, my winery is in Burgundy, and the other part is more the Burgundy style. The tradition where the oenologue, it's actually just using as much, if it's not only the natural things that we have, like the grape juice, the grape, and helping the process to create wine without adding or taking away anything, but just like putting together the better condition to make the wine that represents the best the terroir. I'm not saying the best wine, but the wine that represents the best the terroir. In other words, it's when I was saying like those people, they want to do the best wine, with no default, no things like that. I think it's a wrong way to approach the oenology and the winemaking, because a wine needs to have his default of vintage, his default of the environment of the winemaker that makes the wine have his own character. What is more boring than somebody that doesn't have default or things like that? It's flat.
If to have this kind of regular wine all the time, what do you think they can miss 1 year better, or like a very high quality year, or lower quality, of course, but that's the point that they want to avoid, I guess. But would they have less interesting wine 1 year? Like we could that, some year in France are very good 1 year, and some year are gooder and better than others. Would they miss that by doing this?
Yes, vintages are a very important thing to the wine. That's why you have like wines, let's say the 2010 for Bordeaux and Burgundy, which are more expensive than the 2011. Sometimes twice more expensive than from one vintage to the other one. And the explanation is sometimes we have an amazing year, combining the best weather, the best amount of sun, not too much, but enough to have the grape maturity to the optimum. The best condition to really have what we call the curve between the acidity that we lose and the maturity with the amount of sugar that we have. This cross is the perfection to have like the best balanced wine. So in 2010 it was like one of the really good balance. In 2011 it was not the case. So that's why you have some vintages that are not so great. And when you are an oenologue, the scientific oenologue, you try to
make it the same.
Rectify the bad vintages, which is not so much a good thing unless you're doing like mass production wine that are not supposed to be very relevant for the vintage, but like very fine wines, the grand vin, the vintage has its real importance, and then after you really try to stick on the representation of the vintage. In Burgundy we are very kind of farmers and not scientific farmers. Actually, the oenologue you have like those oenologue like in Bordeaux and in other like big regions. You have like oenologues that actually corrects the wine to make it as more standard.
Oh yeah.
In Burgundy, it's more like a farmer. So we don't have like oenologue as a specialist, like visiting the vineyards and making the wine for owners of vineyards. Everybody has his own enology background, either learning from the father, from the family, or learning at school.
Yes.
But it's just like something to understand what's happening in the vat, what's happening in the process of
some family in Burgundy are been doing this for centuries, basically, right? So they learn from their parents or grandparents or generation to generation. So it's another. That's what we try to explain.
Yeah.
The more natural way of doing it.
Yeah.
And the other thing you do is organic wine. So can you explain what's organic wine compared to the regular wine? Let's call it regular.
Sure. There is a, let's say, stage of organic, even biodynamic or natural wine, compared with what they call the sustainable, which is for me like not so much a good term, because sustainable has a kind of a nice sound, but it's actually not really organic. So organic wine is there is like two types of organic wine. There is organic. There's wine made from organic grapes. So it means that the grapes are farmed organically, no chemicals, which is very important to ensure a good quality wine, but as well ensure the years coming to preserve the healthy environment in the wines. Then after there's the full organic wine, which is not only organic grapes, but as well wine vinifications that are done organically with organic products, with native yeast, so not taking any yeast that are synthesized yeast, and as well lowering the number of sulfites that you use to make the wine. So that's the full organic wine, to be simple.
That's what you try to go to this direction, or
I mean, my winery is even further than that.
Oh,
we
okay.
do biodynamic wines and even natural wines that I can try to explain quite quickly. To come back at the organic wine as well, there is like other philosophy in the organic wine. There is like the rules, and then after there's people that are actually pushing even more into the organic philosophy, which is lowering even more the number of sulfites that the regulation authorizes, as well not filtering the wine, not fining the wine. Try to leave as much what the wine has from the beginning and not taking anything away. The default, like the good sides, that's the part of the wine that makes the wine interesting. So that's the organic wine. And then after you have biodynamic wines, to be very quickly, biodynamic wines, I would say in 3 different parts is using the biodynamic calendar. It's a calendar where there is like days of fruits, fruit days, flower days, root days, leaf days, and you have to, like your grandmother or my grandmother, when she had her vegetable garden, she was planting the carrots when the moon was descending, and the tomatoes when the moon was increasing, and many other things that, you know, when you follow the calendar, you optimize the plant into this its environment. The plants are not like us. We were like that in the old past, but not like us anymore. They are very connected to what's happening around, to the planets, to the attraction of the moon, things like that. So first of all, following the biodynamic calendar. Second is using specific treatments, biodynamic treatments. For example, there is one treatment which is the 500 or the 501, which is a combination of cow manure that we mix with silly, spray, like a bunch of different plants that are good for the vines, for the development and the reinforcement of the vines. We mix it together, we leave it for the whole winter at over a meter down the soil. Then the cow manure becomes a fertilizer. And this is, we put it in a cow horn, because the cow horn is going to multiply the energy and the decomposition of the manure, because the cow horn has lots of energy when it was on the head of the cow, because it was like attracting a lot of waves and things like that. So inside the horn there is a lot of waves and energy and good energies that helps decomposing the cow manure and increasing the number of live particles. So then after, it's a very powerful fertilizer that you spray into the vines to enrich the soil, to multiply the life in the soil. That's one of the preparation, and there is like many of them that are good for specific things. Like that's the second thing, and the third thing, which is maybe the most difficult things to do, it's to reintroduce an ecosystem, a balance. You see, putting flowers, putting fruit trees and other trees, putting, like I do in my vineyard, beehives. I have beehives, I have fruit trees, I have plants, I don't use chemicals, so I leave the grass growing, and the flowers I have, like, that's when we say, when you have a healthy environment, vine, you have more than 10 different species of plants and flowers per square meter. And that helps really to regenerate your environment, and that's very important to reintroduce the ecosystem, because the bees gonna pollinize, the flowers gonna bring some type of insects and birds and things like, as well having some cow, horses, donkeys, things like that, because they bring another type of insects, birds, environment. So that's all the thing, but that's very difficult because, you know, land is expensive. And when you visit, for example, Burgundy, you see vines everywhere. So it's a monoculture environment. So you cannot really rotate the culture. You cannot do those things. So that's one of the most difficult things to do.
Very interesting. And so that's part of the terroir, as we say. Can you explain what terroir is? The American doesn't know exactly. Even some French doesn't know either. But it's very particular to...
One of the most important things to know about wine is balance. That's the most difficult thing to reach, is balance into a wine. Not too much oak, not too much acid, not too much alcohol, not too much tannin. Balance. The terroir as well, that's a French word that doesn't have any translation in French, in English, sorry. And terroir, it's the combination of a unique geographic soil with all what's happening underneath the soil, all the mineral, all that constitute a very unique environment, the soil, combined with a unique climate, weather, So yeah, it's a rainy, humid weather, or it's a very hot weather, or it's a dry weather, or it's a windy weather. So the wind, the sun, the humidity, the orientation with the sun, the number of hours of sun during the day, the inclination of the slope, if it's flat, very inclined, or middle. So the geologic part, the geographic part with the climate, combined with, that's what I want to add into the terroir, combined with a know-how.
Yeah.
The winemaking practices in Burgundy are different than in Alsace, than in Bordeaux, than in California. Mm-hmm. Everything is different. So the combination of the geology, the geography, climate, everything, and the know-how makes a unique environment, mm-hmm. a unique way of making wine that represents the terroir. Mm-hmm. In other words, a terroir cannot be transported somewhere.
Yes, so every part of every region has its own, basically.
Yes. So that's why it's very unique, and that's the most precious thing. That's why the UNESCO classified as a World Heritage les climats de Bourgogne, which is a specific terroir for Burgundy, and that was like now it's a World Heritage. That is it's going to be good for Burgundy. It's been a World Heritage since February last year, so February 2015.
That's new.
And that's very important, very very important.
Yeah, okay, so the other thing now I want, we know in France we have those different categories of wine. I just wanted to talk about very quickly. We have Grand Cru, Premier Cru, Cru Bourgeois. Can you explain what's a Grand Cru, what's a Premier Grand Cru?
So,
what's the categories?
Yeah, on most each region has its own kind of classification, but let's say to take like the two main ones in France, Bordeaux and Burgundy. Burgundy, there is 4 types of levels of appellation. There is the Burgundy, regional appellation, so whatever the grape, either Pinot Noir for the white Burgundies, for the red Burgundies, and the Chardonnay for the white Burgundies, wherever the grape comes from the south, which is Mâcon, or the north, which is Chablis, has the Burgundy appellation, regional appellation. You don't make a difference between where it's produced in the whole Burgundy. And then after you have the village, so you step up on a better type of quality terroir, which is the village. So that's grapes that are coming from a specific village. Pommard, Meursault, Gevrey, Chambertin, Chablis. Then after you have the third step, the third level is a Premier Cru. So it's from a specific village, but we narrow even more the place. It's on a Premier Cru classified vineyard. That is classified Premier Cru because it's known to be producing better wines. The grapes gives better wines. And then after you have the Grand Cru, we don't even name the village and the state of the Grand Cru, we just name the vineyard. So like Le Vougeot, like La Romanée-Conti, like Le Montrachet. So that's the most prestigious vineyard that has his own appellation, and it's a Grand Cru. That's in Burgundy, and it makes it very complicated for consumers. In Bordeaux, it's a little bit less difficult, but you have the Cru Bourgeois, you have the Bordeaux, which is everywhere in Bordeaux, you have the Cru Bourgeois, you have the classification of the Grand Cru on each region in Bordeaux, like Médoc au Médoc, you have like premier Grand Cru classé, deuxième Grand Cru classé, troisième Grand Cru classé. There is a classification from the 1855. When in Burgundy the classification was done because of a terroir classification by the INAO, they classified how the terroir was prestigious or not because of the soil, because of the expression, everything I said about the terroir without the know-how. In Bordeaux, it was in 1855, they just classified according to how much they were selling the wine. Oh, yeah. So if you were like a good salesperson selling your wine expensive, you were a Grand Cru classé. I mean, it sounds a little bit not accurate, but you know, after years and years, people were ready to give a lot of money for a wine because of its quality, but as well because of its prestigious name. So I think the classification of Burgundy is more difficult, but makes more sense.
So let's talk about a little bit about champagne, if you don't mind. I know champagne is white, right? The color of the wine is white, but I heard and I know for a fact that it's made sometime with Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Which Pinot Noir, it's a grape that's red.
Yes.
So how from a red grape you became a white wine?
Yeah, that's a nice question because it brings to interesting answers. First of all, I'm the brand ambassador for Taittinger champagne,
Okay.
so I need to know this answer, but it's not a very difficult answer. So yes, you're right. Pinot Noir is a black grape, but you have to know that about 90% of the grapes, whether they are white or black or another color between those two, the juice is white.
Okay.
What gives the color to the wine is the skin. The skin is colored, and it's because you macerate the grapes, the juice, with the skin, that the skin, with the alcohol, with the fermentation, with the alcohol, it's going to give the colors. The color is going to go away from the skin, and it's going to color the juice, and then after the wine. So the color of the wine comes from the skin. But there is some wine in Champagne, for example, which is called the Blanc de Noir. You have Blanc de Blanc, white from white, Blanc de Noir, white from black. It's because you harvest the Pinot Noir grapes, and you press them directly to get the juice, but without the color. So in Champagne, they often collect the grapes. I mean, they always collect the grapes, harvest the grapes, and then after bring it to the press, and they press directly the fresh harvest. By pressing, they extract the juice, but they don't extract the color.
Okay.
So there is some rosé. The rosé has a color.
Right.
But that's the only region, and that's an interesting thing, that's the only region in France where you can mix red and white and have a rosé.
Okay.
So for example, rosé wine, most of the time, it's a mix of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, which are the three grapes in Champagne. But for the rosé, they always add a base of still wine without gas, and it's a red wine, for example, 10%, 5% or 10% of red wine to the wine that's going to become a champagne, and this red wine is going to give the color.
Okay, interesting. I want to talk about the difference between the French wine, California wine, Italian wine. What makes this big difference between those countries? I know the California wine is more stronger, darker. So what make that? I guess the terroir make it, right?
I want to say the terroir, and I would like to say it's the terroir, only the terroir. But you see, I was adding the 13 into the terroir, which is the practices, the know-how, the savoir-faire. So we have our own way of making wine, and it comes from like the very old past for the countries like France and Spain, Italy. For California, it's what we call the New World wine regions. So they have their own practices based on the old world, France, Italy. When they were making wine, they got the inspiration of how we were making wine to do their Chardonnay or their Pinot Noir, for example. But why? Yes, the terroir. First of all, in California, the weather is it's drier. It's more hot. So only this difference is going to act on the type of the grape they're going to collect. More higher sugar amount in the grape. So more sugar leads to more alcohol. So it's a more alcoholic wine. More tannin. So the Pinot Noir, even if it's the same type of vine, the Pinot Noir in California was going to have like more tannin, more alcohol. And as well, that's the other thing that is not connected to the terroir is the trend. The trend now, especially because of some champagne journalists or people who make notes for not champagne wine one review, one magazine, things like that really give notes on specific wines they like. And I don't want to say a specific person.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But Robert Parker, oh sorry, excuse me, I said it. He's the type of person that really like strong wine, heavy wines, and he was giving notes to that type of wine. And people, because lots of consumer was following his taste, lots of winemaking people, enologue, like the scientific enologue, try to imitate to tend to this trend. People wanted heavy wines, wanted high alcohol wine, tannic wine, a little sweet wine, and so they changed a little bit their practices against the terroir to make a wine that please more the clientele or please more certain review people, and so that's something that take them away a little bit from the attitude of the wine. I love drinking Californian wine from the 60s, from the 70s, from the early 80s. They are beautiful, they are delicate, fine, nothing else like you can have now.
You can keep the California wine
Honestly,
very old.
You could be surprised that wines that are like 40, 50 years old, they are fresh.
Oh, really?
If it has been preserved correctly, it's like vibrant, still fresh. I'm taking a lot of pleasure. I'm taking more pleasure than drinking the full-body heavy wines that you can drink after the mid 80s until now. But the wine I produce in my winery, my winery is Clos du Moulin au Moine.
But let's talk about it. You have a bottle behind you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's present your wine.
Yeah, sure. So my winery is Clos du Moulin au Moine. It's in Océ-du-Reste next to Meursault. I'm not afraid to say that it's a more type of feminine wine, in a way that it's more elegant, fine, precise, with like little red fruit berries. It's not extracted, it's not tannic. It's like more on the soft, on the silky, on the velvety. There is a wine comment, a wine buyer that one day told me something that I really like. Your wine is like drinking cashmere. And I love this thing because it's soft, it's very delicate, it's it's very cozy wine. And I really appreciate, and I use again this expression. And it's a biodynamic wine that I've been producing for many years now. And I have it here in Beverly Hills.
Jordane, thank you very much.
Merci.
It was a real pleasure to learn more about wine. I hope all the people would enjoy it. And thank you to be with us to Carte Los Angeles. And see you next time. You have a last word.
Thank you very much, and I invite you to come in my wine bar. It's in Beverly Hills, 467 North Cannon Drive, and I'll be happy to serve and drink a glass of wine with you, and talk about wine, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chandra